everybody. We are going to be reading the 12th chapter today called Slouching Toward Thanksgiving. And before we start, I wanted to play a little song. That was exactly how I wanted it to sound. Slouching Toward Thanksgiving on page 82. I walked like a zombie through the next few weeks in Reardon. Well, no, that's not exactly the right description. I mean, if I'd been walking around like a zombie, I might have been scary. So no, I wasn't a zombie, not at all. Because you can't ignore a zombie. So that made me, well, it made me nothing. Zero. Zilch. Nada. In fact, if you think of everybody with a body, soul, and brain as a human, then I was the opposite of human. It was the loneliest time of my life. Oh, he really feels like nothing, and he keeps saying this over and over again. I'm definitely noticing the signpost again and again here. And whenever I get lonely, I grow a big zit on the end of my nose. Nope, I'm good. If things didn't get better soon, I was going to turn into one giant walking, talking zit. A strange thing that happened to me. Zitty and lonely, I woke up on the reservation as an Indian, and somewhere on the road to Reardon, I became something less than Indian. Seems like he's losing his identity. And once I arrived at Reardon, I became something less than an Indian. Those white kids did not talk to me. They barely looked at me. Well, Roger would nod his head at me, but he didn't socialize with me or anything. I wondered if maybe I should punch everybody in the face. Maybe they'd all pay attention to me then, because remember he punched Roger? I just walked from class to class alone. I sat at lunch alone. During PE, I stood in the corner of the gym and played catch with myself. Just tossed a basketball up and down, up and down, up and down. These actions of his, standing alone, sitting alone, playing alone, tossing alone, that indirect characterization is really showing how rough it is for him. And I know you're thinking, okay, Mr. Sad Sack, how many ways are you going to tell us how depressed you were? And okay, maybe I'm overstating my case. Maybe I'm exaggerating. So let me tell you a few good things that I discovered during that awful time. Top of page 84. So it seems like he's got a few good things, so maybe things are going to turn out a little bit more hopeful. First of all, great transition, I learned that I was smarter than most of those white kids. Oh, there were a couple of girls and one boy who were little Einsteins, and there was no way I'd ever be smarter than them, but I was way smarter than 99% of the others. And not just smart for an Indian, okay? I was smart, period. Let me give you an example. In geology class, the teacher, Mr. Dodge, oh, okay, we'll remove the gun. Hide it. Okay, that's a cell phone, but he shouldn't have it in school, so I'll remove it too. Okay, he's good. Mr. Dodge. In geology class, the teacher, Mr. Dodge, was talking about the petrified wood forest near George Washington on the Columbia River and how it was pretty amazing that wood could turn into rock. I raised my hand. Yes, Arnold, Mr. Dodge said. Remember Junior's real name is Arnold? He was surprised. That was the first time I raised my hand in his class. Hey, contrast and contradiction. Looks like Junior is possibly coming out of his shell a little bit. I said. Yeah, I was so articulate. Spit it out, Dodge said. Well, I said, petrified wood is not wood. My classmates stared at me. They couldn't believe that I was contradicting a teacher. If it's not wood, Dodge said, then why do they call it wood? I don't know, I said. I didn't name the stuff, but I know how it works. Dodge's face was red. Hot red. I've never seen an Indian look that red. So why do they call us the Redskins? Okay, Arnold, if you're so smart, Dodge said, tell me how it works. Well, what happens is, remember how Junior stutters? Well, what happens is, when you have wood that's buried under dirt, then minerals and stuff sort of soak into the wood. They kind of melt the wood and the glue that holds the wood together. And then the minerals sort of take the place of the wood and the glue. I mean, the minerals keep the same shape as the wood. Like, if the minerals took all the wood and glue out of a tree, then the tree would still be a tree, sort of, but it would be a tree made out of minerals. So, you see, the wood has not turned into rocks. The rocks have replaced the wood. That's very smart. Dodge stared hard at me. He was dangerously angry. Look at this visual for those of you who are artists. Okay, Arnold, Dodge said, where did you learn this fact? On the reservation? Yes, we all know there's so much amazing science on the reservation. So he's being not only sarcastic, but quite a racist. My classmates snickered. They pointed their fingers at me and giggled. Except one, Gordy. He raised his hand. Gordy, Dodge said, all happy and relieved and stuff. I'm sure you can tell us the truth. Actually, Gordy said, Arnold is right about petrified wood. That's what happens. Dodge suddenly went all pale. Yep, from blood red to snow white in about 2 seconds. If Gordy said it was true, then it was true. Even Dodge knew that. Mr. Dodge wasn't even a real science teacher. That's what happens in small schools, you know. Sometimes you don't have enough money to hire a real science teacher. Sometimes you have an old real science teacher who retires or quits and leaves you without a replacement. And if you don't have a real science teacher, then you pick one of the other teachers and make him a science teacher. Kind of like if someone took me and all of a sudden made me teach science. And that's why small town kids sometimes don't know the truth about petrified wood. Well, isn't that interesting? The fake science teacher said. Thank you for sharing that with us, Gordy. Yep, that's right. Mr. Dodge thanked Gordy, but didn't say another word to me. Yep, now even the teachers were treating me like an idiot. I shrank back into my chair and remembered when I used to be a human being. So he just felt like he was about to reach some hope, and then bam, Dodge just crushed him. I remember when people used to think I was smart. I remember when people used to think my brain was useful. Damaged by water, sure, and ready to seizure at any moment, but still useful, and maybe even a little bit beautiful and sacred and magical. After class, I caught up to Gordy in the hallway. Hey, Gordy, I said. Thanks. Thanks for what? He said. Thanks for sticking up for me back there, for telling Dodge the truth. I didn't do it for you, Gordy said. I did it for science. He walked away. I stood there and waited for the rocks to replace my bones and blood. I rode the bus home that day. That night. Well, no, I rode the bus to the end of the line, which was the reservation border, and there I waited. My dad was supposed to pick me up, but he wasn't sure if he'd have enough gas money, especially if he was going to stop at the Res Casino and play slot machines first. I waited for 30 minutes. Exactly. Then I started walking. Getting to school was always an adventure. I think some sarcasm is coming out. After school, I'd ride the bus to the end of the line and wait for my folks. If they didn't come, I'd start walking, hitchhiking in the opposite direction. Somebody was usually heading back home to the res, so I'd usually catch a ride. 3 times I had to walk the whole way home, 22 miles. I got blisters each time. Ugh. And if you take a look at this picture on page 88, how Junior gets to school, so there's a little humor in here, but it's still kind of telling a lot of truth. On Monday, no gas money, so he hitchhikes 22 miles. On Tuesday, he has gas money, but car isn't running. It's broken, so he hitchhikes. On Wednesday, Dad gives him a ride. Car breaks down 1 mile from school. He walks and gets to school 30 minutes late. And guess what's going to happen at school when he arrives late? On Thursday, Mom gives him a ride. Dad is too hungover. Clank, 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 clack, clatter. Thanks, Mom. So he actually got a ride on Thursday, and he made it to school without a problem. Friday, no gas money, nobody stops to pick me up. So he stays home. He walks home, watches TV. The Price is Right. Mrs. Bunn, you win. Next week, start over, but in a different order. Any of you can relate to this? Trouble getting to school, and then as a result, you can't attend all 5 days. And this trouble is real and it's frustrating. But notice how Junior doesn't just give up. Hey, I can't get to school, so, oh well, here comes the TV. He still tries. That is a strong young man. Good job, Junior. Anyway, page 89. After my petrified wood day, I caught a ride with a Bureau of Indian Affairs white guy, and he dropped me off right in front of my house. I walked inside and saw that my mother was crying. I often walked inside to find my mother crying. What's wrong? I asked. It's your sister. Did she run away again? She got married. Wow, I was freaked. But my mother and father were absolutely freaked. Indian families stick together like Gorilla Glue, the strongest adhesive in the world. My mother and father both lived within 2 miles of where they were born, and my grandmother lived 1 mile from where she was born. Ever since the Spokane Indian Reservation was founded back in 1881, nobody in my family had ever lived anywhere else. We spirits, their last name, that's why it's capitalized, stay in one place. We are absolutely tribal. For good or bad, we don't leave one another. And now my mother and father had lost 2 kids to the outside world. We've got Junior, who's now going to Reardon, and we've got his sister, who's moved away. Imagine how the parents feel. I think they felt like failures. Or maybe they were just lonely. Or maybe they didn't know what they were feeling. I didn't know what to feel. Who could understand my sister? After 7 years of living in the basement and watching TV, after doing absolutely nothing at all, my sister decided she needed to change her life. I guess I kind of shamed her. If I was brave enough to go to Reardon, then she'd be brave enough to marry a Flathead Indian and move to Montana. Where'd she meet this guy? Asked my mother. At a casino, she said. Your sister said he was a good poker player. I guess he travels to all the Indian casinos in the country. Oh, great husband. She married him because he plays cards? She said he wasn't afraid to gamble everything, and that's the kind of man she wanted to spend her life with. I couldn't believe it. My sister married a guy for a damn silly reason. But I suppose people often get married for damn silly reasons. Is he good looking? I asked. He's actually kind of ugly, my mother said. He has this hook nose and his eyes are way different sizes. Damn, my sister had married a lopsided, eagle-nosed, nomadic poker player. It made me feel smaller. I thought I was pretty tough, but I just have to dodge dirty looks from white kids while my sister would be dodging gunfire in beautiful Montana. Those Montana Indians were so tough that white people were scared of them. Can you imagine a place where white people are scared of Indians and not the other way around? That's Montana. And my sister had married one of those crazy Indians. She didn't even tell our parents or grandmother or me before she left. She called Mom from St. Ignatius, Montana, on the Flathead Indian Reservation and said, "Hey, Mom, I'm a married woman now. I want to have 10 babies and live here forever and ever." How weird is that? It's almost romantic. And then I realized that my sister was trying to live a romance novel. Remember how she used to write them? Man, that takes courage and imagination. Well, it also took some degree of mental illness too, but I was suddenly happy for her and a little scared. Well, a lot scared. She was trying to live out her dream. We should have all been delirious that she'd moved out of the basement. We'd been trying to get her out of her there for years. Of course, my mother and father would have been happy if she'd just gotten a part-time job at the post office or trading post, and maybe just moved into an upstairs bedroom in her house. But I just kept thinking that my sister's spirit hadn't been killed. She hadn't given up. This reservation had tried to suffocate her, had kept her trapped in a basement, and now she was out roaming the huge grassy fields of Montana. How cool. I felt inspired. Of course, my parents and grandmother were in shock. They thought my sister and I were going absolutely crazy. But I thought we were being warriors, you know? And warrior isn't afraid of confrontation. Take a look at the top picture. Okay, we've got Stranger from Montana book, and she's saying, "Think you're so tough, Junior?" And that's his only sister. And here's an excerpt or a section from the book. "I want to have 10 babies and live here forever and ever," exclaimed Mary Runs Away. "Darling," gushed What's-His-Face. Their beer-smelling mouths met in a big kiss until What's-His-Face had to burp. Okay, so we're going to stop right here for this section. Okay, when he says, on the bottom of page 91, "and a warrior isn't afraid of confrontation."